Right, Clyde are one of the oldest clubs in Scottish football, but their existence in the SPFL is under threat. They sit rock bottom of League Two and they're actually onto their second manager of the season as well. Things are looking bleak, shall we say, for the Bully Wee, who were formed in 1877. Ian McCall is the new man at the helm of this historic club, but after losing his first game in charge, which was 4-0 to East Fife, it leaves them with only one win after 13 games. Here to explain it all and try and bring some positivity to all this bleak news, potentially, is the host of the Clyde FC podcast, and he's also the Clyde media correspondent, Paul Shanks. Paul, thanks for joining us. And sorry, a bleak intro, but hopefully you can explain it all for us. How are you, first and foremost?
Well, I was doing fine until your intro, Andrew, to be honest. But it's facts that have been driven home just about every kind of Saturday at the moment. And trying to explain it is a near impossible task. When you get relegated from any league, I think everyone expects the next season to be that bit better, that bit easier. It's certainly not been the case for Clyde. Our woes have continued pretty much since last September onwards. And yeah, as you say, things are bleak in the extreme. Hopefully, with Ian McCall coming on board and Neil Scally as well, we're hopeful that come January, he gets a bit of business done to hopefully turn the way this season's going. Is pretty horrific.
Just take us back to last season and where things felt like they were not going quite right. Where do you think the starting point was in all of that?
Well, it's odd because after 3 games last season, first 3 games, we were 7 points from 9. Unlucky not to be 9 from 9. And we were free scoring. We were looking great at the back. And we were thinking, wow, what is the possibilities for this season? And then we didn't win another game until February. I mean, that's all you can really say. What happened, nobody really knows. It wasn't, I would say, an injury crisis or anything like that. We picked up injuries along the way, but just about every key player's form fell off the cliff face. I mean, there's no rhyme nor reason for it. It just went from being great to, I want to bleach my eyeballs. This is painful. And there's no way, even being involved at the club, you can sugarcoat it. Last season was just horrific. I mean, absolutely horrific. And yes, the club has its constraints and that's kind of budgetary. But at the same time, last season's squad, whilst probably not one that would be pushing for promotion in League One, certainly should have been a lot more competitive in trying to stay in the division. We did change the manager in November. We parted ways with Danny Lennon after 5 years at the club. And Danny had a great term with the Bully Wee that soured at the end because of, we went on a run of 10 or 11 straight defeats.
Did he not play? Did he not play last season as well?
It was the season before. It was in the Glasgow Cup.
The one.
Yeah, in the Glasgow Cup as an 80th minute substitute at the ripe old age of 50. So there's still hope for us all. But I'll tell you what, he still covered the ground. Covered the ground, Danny. He was incredibly fit. I don't think he touched the ball. Maybe he got rattled off his shins for a corner kick. But yeah, I mean, it was quite the sight seeing a 50-year-old up against some 17-year-olds. I think even Ben Doak, now at Liverpool, played for Celtic that night in the Glasgow Cup. So literally a third of Danny's age.
So he left. Who came in after Danny? Was it Duffy?
Yeah, it was eventually Jim Duffy after a kind of short spell with Alan Moore as interim charge. And at early doors, everyone was kind of thinking and hoping that Jim Duffy would come in, be a bit more pragmatic in his approach and make us difficult to beat. Certainly his last Dumbarton side were very much that, even though they did eventually get relegated. I think they had the second best defence in the league. His first 2 games, it was an aggregate score of 5-4, 5 against when we played Falkirk and Dunfermline. So perhaps that probably should have gave us a wee inkling as to where things were going to go. We had some okay performances. We did pick up a couple of victories. But it was always one eye, even at that stage, it was one eye on the playoffs at the end of the season, making sure that we finished ahead of Peterhead, who somehow managed to have an even worse season than ourselves, which is quite some going. And we actually kind of headed into the playoffs in fairly decent nick. We picked up some good wins. We beat Montrose, Edinburgh City towards the tail end of the season. We dealt well with East Fife in the playoffs. But what did kill us eventually was injuries. I mean, we were missing 6, I think, first team players. Got into the final itself against a kind of buoyant Annan team. And it all just kind of fell apart in the second leg. We'd used all our subs by half time. Rico Katongo had suffered a horrific leg break. And it just felt like that was it. That was it. It was the season in a nutshell in 45 minutes.
Tough, really tough. Obviously, Annan Athletic getting promoted from that tie. So Jim Duffy actually moves upstairs, and then Brian McLean, the former player, comes in charge. That ended as well. That was a very short spell, as was Jim Duffy again, up in the boardroom level. I suppose it's all kind of just been a mess from last season a wee bit.
Yeah, that's the polite way of putting it, Andrew. I think there was merits behind the decision to keep Jim Duffy on in that capacity, provided that Jim took the role up in what it's defined to do. Now, what it became clear, and I don't think I'm speaking out of term here, I do believe that the board have put this out there, so I think I'm safe to say it, that it became clear that Jim perhaps was not ready to take that full step back. And I think the roles were overlapping where they shouldn't have or didn't need to. And it perhaps just put us a wee bit further back than we were wanting to be at the start of the season in particular. So in that regard, I very much do feel for Brian. We were probably 4 or 5 weeks behind just about everyone else in the league as far as getting our squad ready. And when we did compile the squad, it was very, very inexperienced, and it still is. The average age of just about any starting lineup we have at the moment is in around 22.
Wow.
And when you just need to look at some of the other squads in the league, even just squads around us at the moment, East Fife with Brian Easton at the back, heaps of experience. Alan Troughton, I think he's nearly as old as I, but still brilliant wee player for this league. But we're fielding 18-year-olds on loan. Now, they're very capable footballers, but it's a lot to ask of them when it is their first experience of the professional game at any level. To ask an 18-year-old to jump in, go and learn the man's game. So, yeah, Brian's a lovely guy. I've got to know Brian through my media work at the club, and it was not through a lack of effort, far from it. He was a brilliant coach, but there just wasn't something clicking. Now, whether that was the tactical side of the game, to make the right substitutions, or seeing when other teams were changing tactically, we weren't changing throughout the game. We were just kind of sticking to one style, and if it wasn't working, the players didn't know what else to do. And I think that's where the hope was that Jim Duffy would come in, and it just didn't. It never did. And something had to give. And I think at the point that we made the decision, as tough as it was the right decision to make. Subsequently, to then bring in someone with the experience and the track record as Ian McCall, I think is a massive, massive coup for ourselves. I think it's a massive opportunity for us with someone like Ian at the helm, but he's got a lot of work to do. I mean, no qualms about that.
You're right to allude to maybe the level that Ian McCall's coming from, because I think it's kind of beyond doubt that he's, with the greatest of respect, a manager that's probably capable and is capable. He's shown it to be operating at a level probably around the championship or even the top flight. You know, he's been there too. So I think coup's the right words. That's just, when I saw the appointment, I was like, wow, that is a big thing.
Definitely.
How's it gone down with the Clyde supporters? Because obviously his history with Thistle is quite extensive. So that's quite an interesting move to make, to go from Maryhill to Broadwood. But you must be excited, because I think, you know, you kind of couldn't have picked or imagined anybody better qualified with a track record who's, as you're saying, got that experience as well of moulding squads and using young players and the resources that he's got to incredible effect, because the time is running out for Clyde, isn't it, this season?
Absolutely. And I was very surprised as to how, perhaps not unanimous, but I would say that it was largely positive. I was expecting a wee bit more, he was with them. But at the same time, so was Danny Lennon. I mean, Danny Lennon was a well-regarded player for Thistle. But those that maybe had their doubts probably just looked at the league table. And as you say, the clock's ticking here. You have to go for what is the best, regardless of football tribalism or anything else. Ultimately, if he comes in and Clyde Football Club start winning matches, nobody's going to care where he's played or managed his football. They'll be singing his name come the end of the season. I can guarantee you that.
Ian McCall is one of these managers who has been around for such a long time, but he's made such a huge mark as well. And I do hope that he can do this at Clyde. He's very well regarded in turning around the careers of like Stephen Dobie and even Lawrence Shankland when he was at Ayr. He turns players' kind of fortunes around, and with it being such a young squad, I do wonder if this is the right place for him to really make a mark. But you said it already, it's such a big job. How fearful and how impacting is this on the area if Clyde were to go down further?
All the kind of different aspects around the club just now, everything's up in the air, and that's on the field and off the field. I mean, that's been the case for the best part of nearly 4 decades, to be quite frank. You're going back to the 80s, really, since we left Shawfield. But ultimately, we are a homeless football club. I mean, that's it. We are a homeless football club, bottom of the SPFL, that somehow managed to convince Ian McCall to come in. Probably the biggest project that he has ever probably undertaken, with promises. I mean, there's promises behind it. There's, I'm not going to say like oil money or silly money, like so the Premier League or whatever, but we've got a wee bit of backing for a change, which will help us. And yeah, he's going to need it. Will he be able to turn the fortunes round of the squad that we currently have? I very much hope so. I do believe, despite our mince points tally, I'm trying to choose my language here, there is talent there. It's just, it's been sapped of every bit of confidence. So yeah, I do think he could turn, especially the younger players, and help them progress in their own careers, but for the benefit of Clyde, first and foremost. He's got a lot of experienced and good experienced players there already. I mean, we've got Peter Grant there, who 8 years ago scored in a Scottish Cup final. I mean, yeah, Peter's got his limitations. He would be first to hold his hand up and say he's not the fastest. Yeah, but he's playing League Two football. Don't really need a whole lot of pace. And he's perfectly capable defender. So he's got other good players there, Stuart Carswell, who we've brought in. These guys probably need to admit themselves that they've not done enough. And that goes for younger and experienced players. So it's not just up to Ian to bring out the best in them. It's up to about themselves to actually stand up to the plate, really, as well, and go, do you know what? We are making the same mistakes time and time again. So it's about time we take some ownership and fix it.
You do have one thing to look forward to though, Paul. In January, you've got your Scottish Cup run's been good enough to get you a tie against Aberdeen, who'll also bring a very good crowd. There's still the prospect that could be on TV. And there's some Aberdeen fans who are hoping to chalk off Broadwood as a ground trip. Of course, Clyde have now moved to Hamilton, so they'll be a wee bit peed off for that. But how much are you looking forward to that, and how much will that help the coffers as well? Even if it's not on TV, that surely that'll help you a wee bit as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm slightly disappointed that it's a home tie, and that might sound mad, but it's not a fixture that's been played an awful lot in Scottish football recent terms. I think it was 91, 92, the last time the teams met full stop. I think that was a League Cup tie. And then before that, I believe it was 83, 84 season, and that was your your star-studded, soon-to-be European conquering Aberdeen side that rocked up to Shawfield and snuck a 2-0 victory, I'm assured. I wasn't around to see it, unfortunately. But yeah, like you mentioned, they'll bring a good number down. Perhaps not as many if it had been, say, at Broadwood, for them to be able to tick that off. They'll be more than well versed with New Douglas Park and maybe sick of the sight of it. I don't want to comment on that, but it would be good to see anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000. Absolutely helps, and I'm sure Ian will be chatting on the finance director's door to find out exactly how much he made and how much he's getting of it. I would dare say probably every penny. But yeah, from just a fan perspective, there'll be at least 2 generations of Clyde fans that will have never seen this fixture. And probably the same goes for Aberdeen as well. So we've been lucky enough with the draw that we've faced tricky opposition. We've dealt with them with relative ease, albeit it took extra time against Musselburgh. I still felt we were comfortable. Jeanfield Swifts, I thought I struggled to see how they scored 6 against Elgin, quite frankly. Then when the draw came, we were kind of all hoping, give us the usual, a club at this level, you want Celtic, Rangers away, one of the big guys away, just for the bank balance. But to get someone like Aberdeen, just that wee bit of novelty, I mean, it would have been our luck that we ended up, with no offence, Celtic Hearts or something. We've saw plenty of times in recent years, at home or away, and it just would have been a bit of a kind of damp squib about it, and you'd be like, great, them again, they're probably going to beat us, great. Whereas this, it's just get that wee bit more to it. So, no, very much looking forward to it. It feels quite a bit away, and we've got plenty to focus on until then.
If you can get your games on, like everyone else at the moment. The weather's not doing us a turn, that's for sure. I just seen it. 1970 was the last time Clyde beat Aberdeen. 2-1 it finished. There you go. Quite exciting. I just want to finish on a positive note, because one man who's well known at the club and was instrumental in bringing Ian McCall to Clyde, Alan Maitland, I believe he is joining the club again as chairman. Is that right?
He's joining the board. So
he's joining the board,
Alan
right.
will be, provided he gets voted on by the owners, he'll be heading up the football department.
And he's a massive man around the area, isn't he?
Oh, like, he's huge. Alan Maitland was the last Clyde manager to manage us to a title. But what he did do was a wee bit deeper than that. He completely changed where the club were and put us on a trajectory that almost saw us reach the top flight. And that all started when Alan Maitland and Ronnie McDonald came into the club. We were sitting, we just narrowly avoided relegation from the old second division, now League One. He came in and they did what was called the Junior Revolution. He brought all these players, your Mark McLaughlin's, your Jack Ross's, all these guys who nobody had heard of. Nobody, not even Clyde fans, were like, who are these clowns? Like, what are you doing to our football club? Laughing stock, people, the press were all like, Clyde for relegation, absolute muppets. What they're playing at, won the title the next season, playing some swashbuckling football, for want of a better phrase. It was like we're winning games 4-3, 6-3, 7-1. It was just, you score 4, we'll score 7. Cool, no bother. It didn't end on brilliant terms when he left to go to Accies. But then you look, after he went to Accies and Ronnie McDonald went with him, look at the trajectory that Hamilton Accies then went on. Mm-hmm. They went on to have one of the best youth academies that the Scottish football seen in a long, long time. And that's the hope. There's a different atmosphere, I think, now with Alan coming back in. He's got a lot of work to do in that, but I think having him, Ian McCall, and Neil Scally, I don't think we can underestimate him coming with Ian McCall as well. Did you say it's a positive? I think it's a real positive. Alan Maitland will have no issues getting voted on back onto the board of the football club. And he will drive change. He will drive the club forward. Kicking and screaming, but he will do it.